Would you believe me if I told you there were 18.6 million millionaires living in the United States right now? That means a little over 5.5% of everybody living in the United States has a net worth of at least $1 million. Walk down a metaphorical street that somehow has a perfectly average US demographic in it, 1 in 18 people that you pass would be a millionaire. The strange thing is, most of these people don't work super high paying jobs. In fact, you're more likely to run into a teacher who's a millionaire than a doctor. And they also usually didn't inherit their money. Around 80% of millionaires didn't inherit any money whatsoever, and only around 3% of millionaires inherited at least $1 million, according to a survey by Ramsey Solutions. So how is this possible? How are everyday people working normal jobs somehow becoming millionaires? Well, I'm going to walk you through a step-by-step plan how you can become a millionaire too, using some of the same techniques that these other millionaires are already using. I'm then going to back this up by showing how my plan will lead me to become a millionaire by age 35. So before we get too far into this, I'm going to ask you to please hit the like button and consider subscribing. The only reason I ask is because the YouTube algorithm considers likes and comments as engagement, and it causes them to push this video out to a wider audience. Step 1 in the plan to become a millionaire is creating a written budget that allows you to both reduce expenses and achieve your financial goals. Budgeting is simply tracking what you do with your money. Your goal should be to keep track of where your money goes and then cut expenses which don't lead to you living a happier, more fulfilled life. Once you actually start following a written budget, you'll be amazed at how much money you can spend on things that you don't need or even necessarily want without even noticing. I cannot overemphasize this point enough. You need a written budget, no matter how much money you make. This is the foundational stone upon which we're going to build this entire plan. Step 2 is to build up a small emergency fund equal to either $1,000 or 1 month's expenses, whichever is cheaper. This fund is there to keep you afloat in case some kind of emergency happens which you need to fix right away. Say, for example, a part of your car breaks down. This is not enough money to cover all unexpected situations. It's only for emergencies. This fund will keep you from needing to go into debt or take on risky payday loans, which will absolutely wreck your financial future. Step 3 is to take any funds that your employer offers to match. For example, a 401k. Some employers offer a 401k plan where if you contribute money to it, they will contribute that same amount. Now, I would always take this full match up front because it's a guaranteed 100% return on investment. This is free money, and you don't become a millionaire by turning down free money. So if your employer, say, offers to match 6% of your paycheck into your 401k, make sure you contribute 6%. Step 4 is to pay down any high interest debt you have, which has an interest rate of greater than 4 or 5% per year. If you have high interest debt, you will find it very difficult to build wealth and become a millionaire. This is because any money that you bring in goes right back out the door in the form of interest payments. Just remember, millionaires don't take out debt to fund a lavish lifestyle in fancy cars, financing new furniture, or taking on credit card debt. The only form of debt which I would ever keep around is low interest debt which I use to leverage my investments. For example, taking out a mortgage on a property which then produces rental income. Step 5 is to increase your emergency fund to 3 to 6 months of expenses. This is enough money to cover you in case of a layoff or maybe an unexpected medical expense. Now, what you've done up to this point in the plan is cover your bases. You've protected yourself by building up an emergency fund and by paying down any high interest debt. At this point, your goal is to now start building wealth in the future. Which brings me to step 6, contribute to an IRA. An IRA is a tax-advantaged account, meaning the government offers an incentive for you to contribute money to it. You should save at a minimum at least 15% of your income between an IRA and your 401k. These accounts should then be used to invest in the stock market. I specifically invest in an ETF which broadly tracks the market. A good one if you use Vanguard is VT-SAX. If you follow the steps up to this point, you don't have any high interest debt, and you contribute 15% to your retirement each year, you'll make around a 9% return on average from your investments. If we plug these numbers into a compound interest calculator, we can see that someone who makes $50,000 a year and invests 15% of their money into the stock market will be worth over $1 million in just 30 years, starting from nothing. But remember, that's just the bare minimum. What if you want to become a millionaire sooner? Like I mentioned earlier in the video, my plan is to become a millionaire by age 35, which is a little less than 10 years from now. So at this point, we need to move beyond the bare minimum of what you should be doing and start focusing on what you can do extra to try to build your net worth. Step 7 is to max out your IRA with the maximum contribution of $6,000 each year. The more money you contribute to your IRA, the faster that money will grow, so it's important to put as much as possible into these tax-advantaged accounts. The biggest benefit to the IRA is you have complete control of what you do with your money. You can invest this money in basically anything you want to, but like I said, for most people, the best option is to invest in a broad market index fund like VT-SAX. Step 8 is to max out any other tax-advantaged accounts that you have access to. The 401k is probably the most common type of account, and it's what's available to me, but it could depend completely depending on who employs you as well as if you're self-employed. If, like me, you have an employer, you're allowed to contribute up to $19,500 to your 401k starting this year. If you are self-employed, you could contribute as much as $56,000 to your 401k. And if you're over the age of 50, you can contribute even more in catch-up contributions. The final step, once you have maxed out all tax-advantaged accounts that are available to you, is to invest outside of these accounts in whatever area you feel the most comfortable with. That could be real estate, stocks, opening your own business. These investments will be taxed by the government, but at least you get to grow your money, and it won't just be sitting in a savings account making 1% per year. Notice that at no point in these steps do I ever have more than 3 to 6 months worth of savings sitting in a savings account. The reason for that is you will not become a millionaire by saving your money. You have to invest. In fact, if you were just leaving your money in a savings account, you're actually losing money each year due to inflation slowly dropping the value of that money. So I just laid out the steps of the plan. But now let me use myself as an example and show how this can lead to me becoming a millionaire by age 35. So like I mentioned earlier, the first step is to set up your budget. So right here we have my budget. The way I have this budget set up is I have my income listed in green, I have my investments in kind of a light blue shade, and then all my other expenses are highlighted in beige. So if you add up all the different expenses in my budget and then add up all the different savings and investments in my budget, you can see that I save or invest around 46% of my budget every single month. Now that number actually is not accounting for equity in my home, so if I were to account for how much that builds up, this would actually be closer to around 52% in savings or investments every month. Now, because I keep a strict budget, I can use this to predict how much money is going into my various accounts, my 401k, my Roth IRA, as well as my taxable brokerage account. And I track that on the next tab. So on this tab, I have a chart where I plot my net worth, both as a projection from what I estimate, as well as what it actually is at the current time. The blue line here is what the projection is, and that little orange line in the corner is how much my net worth has actually grown. I don't want to spend too much time diving into this, but basically on the left side here, you can see my low interest debt is my mortgage and my student loans. And then the other columns are all ways that I'm building net worth. So home equity, my Roth IRA, my 401k, and my taxable brokerage account. And then the right is just a sum of all that. In order to make this estimate, I had to make a couple assumptions. My assumptions included that my income would stay the same, and I would allocate the same amount to these accounts every single month. And then I also assumed that I would make a 9% return on every account every single month. Now, obviously, in reality, it's going to be a lot more up and a lot more down than that, but this works as an average over a long time horizon. So this chart is basically a graphical representation of the plan that I laid out earlier. So now all we have to do is look at the chart and figure out at what point does it cross $1 million. Now, if we scroll down, we can see that my net worth will actually cross $1 million according to this estimate by November of 2030. At that point, I will be 35 years old, 10 years from now. The only reason I'm showing this to you is to give you an example for how you can plan your way into wealth. I know plenty of people who make way more money than I do who don't have a penny to their name because they simply spend everything that they earn. Only by living below your means, keeping a strict budget, and following a plan can you actually achieve your financial goals. Whether that goal is to become a millionaire or something else entirely is up to you. With that said, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to leave a like. And if you don't want to miss out on any future videos, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell. I'll see you next time.